It's a Magic Untapped Podcast on MagicUntapped.com, YouTube, and your favorite source for podcasts. Hello, Magic players. Barry White from Magic Untapped, and with me is the MagicUntapped.com writer, Jim Mavory. Jim, how are you doing?
I am doing good. It's good to be back on the podcast. It has been a while.
It's been a little while, yes. Glad to have you joining us again. And what we're going to be talking about this time around, we have a couple Innistrad sets coming out later in this year. We're just going to talk a little bit about 2021 so far, just overall with Magic. We got Jumpstart Historic Horizons. I want to say Jumpstart Horizons. That's coming out exclusively to MTGA. And then we have a special guest. We have Zbexx, the cosplayer and streamer and all-around cool Magic the Gathering person. Sound good?
Yes, can't wait.
All right. Before we get started, though, of course, got to give a shout-out to our Patreon subscriber, Lino Hernandez. Lino, thank you very much for the support. We appreciate it. Right, Jim?
Yes, we absolutely do. You are invaluable to us.
Yeah, every little bit helps. But moving on to the topic at hand, we have not one, but two standard legal, they call them premier sets now, Innistrad sets coming out. We have Midnight Hunt, followed about a month later by Crimson Vow. Jim, what strikes you about these sets?
Well, I can't help but notice that they do seem a little bit similar in theme between the two of them. We've got two different Twilight races coming together to battle over the hand of
you noticed that,
if I understand the lore correctly.
Werewolf focused in Midnight Hunt, and we are vampire focused in Crimson Vow. Now, we don't know too much about Crimson Vow. We know Soren's in it because we've seen him on some of the promotional material. We know Olivia Voldaren, one of the other vampires on Innistrad, is also predominantly featured on the marketing materials and packaging. And that's about it. Jim, what can you make out of this?
Not a whole lot out of just that information. When was the last time there was a set based specifically around one creature type? I think it's been a while.
As a focus like that heavy on one creature type, I'm not really sure when we've had one that was like, okay, this is, because we've had like, this is the tribal set, this is the artifact set, the enchantment set. We've never, off the top of my head, and if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments if you're watching here on YouTube. I have not really, don't really remember anyone where it's like, this is the elf set, this is the orc set, but here we are, this is the werewolf set, and this is the vampire set, and I think we can expect a large number of each creature in their respective sets.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, especially from a drafting perspective, because I know in previous sets where there were multiple different creature types, which is most of them, I know that there were cards that would let you build up a deck around a certain creature type. And now if we're going to heavily focus on one creature type, maybe we're not going to see as much of that.
I think we still will see, humans and devils and what have you, but I'm wondering if the ratio is going to be different, or if maybe the flavoring, the single tribal flavoring might just be for the storyline purposes, and maybe won't be reflected so much in the individual cards. Time will tell on that.
That's possible too. Or one thing that I just thought of that I think would be cool is some sort of mechanic based on turning into a werewolf. So maybe it's not so much a creature type as it is maybe an ability or a new mechanic.
You mean something that can almost turn non-werewolves into werewolf flipping creature type things?
Yeah, something like that.
That'd be interesting. I'm not sure exactly how that would pull off unless, maybe it was a card you would overlay or who knows what. But that's an interesting thought, Jim. Hadn't thought about that. But we do have some intel on some of the cards that are coming out for Midnight Hunt. Jim, of those cards, what really catches your eye?
The thing here that really catches my eye is Triskaidekaphile, because one thing that always really appeals to me is alternative win conditions, and This one here basically it removes your maximum hand size, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 13 cards in your hand, you win the game. And that's the sort of thing that I like playing around with, even if I fail with it 95% of the time. But it's nice; it gives a different flavor to the game, which I like.
And
So
maybe time will prove me wrong, but that sounds like if you build around it right, be a pretty easy goal, wouldn't you think?
I would think so. I mean, drawing cards is such a common ability in Magic.
Especially when you look at older formats where you can draw, maybe you pay life to draw cards and stuff like that. You just resource up to 13 and then done.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, a card that caught my eye and caught a lot of other people's eye is Ren and Seven, the mono green planeswalker, which is an evolution of Ren and Six from the original Modern Horizons, which was a gruel colored red green planeswalker. I think this one's pretty cool. I think, I'm worried a little bit about the casting cost being at 5, but the way Standard's been lately, I don't really know if that is much of a handicap. And it has 4 really useful abilities on it, between its +1, revealing the top 4 cards of your library and putting land cards into your hand. Also fills your graveyard that way, all the way down to its ultimate -8, where you can return all permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand, and then you have no maximum hand size. Kind of works with that Triska Descaphile card. I know I said that name wrong, but oh well.
No, it sounded good to me.
And then we also have, I'm sure you've seen, Jim, these monochrome basic lands, full art, borderless basic lands. I think these things are striking.
I think so too. I mean, the first time I saw them, I thought that maybe they just like had yet to be revealed. Then I revealed that's just how they look. And yeah, there's nothing else that looks like it in the set, but I think they look fantastic.
Yeah, they've done full art, they've done borderless, but they've not done it like this. This is something really, really beautiful to look at. It gives it almost like like the pictures you would find in an old novel,
Yeah, it's like compared with the color that's all over the game, it's kind of arresting. It's very jarring, and it sort of gives it like this really bleak feel. But
It almost makes it uncomfortable, but in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now, Jim, those 2 Innistrad sets, well, they're only 2 of honestly a lot of things that have come out here in 2021. Let's just take a look at the list here. We have Kaldheim early in the year, Time Spiral Remastered, Strixhaven, School of Mages, Modern Horizons 2, Dungeons and Dragons, Adventures in the Forgotten Realm. Add the 2 Innistrad sets, that's 7 full set releases. Then add on top of that, we've had, I believe, 22 or so secret lair drops.
It's amazing.
On top of that, we've had the 4 challenger decks come out. And then on top of that, we've had 15 commander decks come out, and that doesn't even count any commander decks that may come out, I believe are coming out for the 2 Innistrad sets. Is this a good amount, or is this too much?
This feels excessive. I mean, the secret lair drops, I think, are absolutely excessive, especially considering their price. But, I mean, too many releases I'm seeing. I phrase that terribly. Yes, I feel like we're getting maybe 1 or 2 too many sets this year. Did we even get a core set this year?
Well, the D&D took place of the core set.
Okay.
Yeah. I still remember back in the day where it was you had a large set, 2 small sets, and every other year was a core set, and the in-between year was a special set. And you know what? I kind of missed that. It was all, about half the releases we have now just on sets alone, not counting any special auxiliary releases, ancillary releases, like the secret lair drops we have now. And they used to have gift boxes and stuff like that back in the day. But I feel like I'm kind of drowning in Magic releases. It's not just the wallet fatigue, it's just Magic fatigue.
Yeah, it's one thing that that strikes me is that, especially playing on Arena, I feel like whenever a new set comes out, Arena very heavily shifts to focus on the new set with the drafts and the events.
And
And
that
so,
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, but
It should.
I eventually start getting the feeling that if I don't like jump on a set once it comes out, I'm going to end up missing out on it.
And in paper, there's that same feeling. At the same time, I did that for sets like Strixhaven and Kaldheim, and I still feel like I missed them because they were here and then they were gone. Part of that's due to the COVID, not being able to go out and go to drafts and whatnot. But Kaldheim could have been a 2-set block. Strixhaven, it's fine as a single set. They could have easily expanded that. I don't know the story of Strixhaven. It's a magical school, Harry Potter-esque, and that's kind of where my knowledge of it ends. I'm gonna have to do a lot of reading up on it when I finally get up to that point in the Magic history videos that we put out here on Magic Untapped. And Kaldheim, I could tell you it's based on Norse mythology.
Yeah.
And where it ends.
Yeah, and not just like the mythology of it, but also the new mechanics that get introduced. It's like they're here and then they're gone.
And then they're forgotten. There's no carryover. There used to be carryover, and now there's no carryover. The sets end up feeling hollow, and the quantity of the sets feels overwhelming. And I'm thinking the quality of the releases, with those factors combined, are lacking.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree with that. I think there's something like if they feel more special, if they are around longer.
Right.
This is what Magic is for right now.
Right. We're jumping around, and we're jumping around too much.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
Yeah, and we're probably missing some more unannounced releases that are still going to come out, maybe some more secret layers, maybe something special for the holidays come later in the year. So there might be even more than the 7, 29, 33, 43, 48 plus releases we've had this year.
That's too excessive. What I'm thinking of here is like having 2 Innistrad sets later on in the year. If they were released close together and they sort of dovetailed into each other, they played off of each other, that I would be okay with.
And I'm hoping that's what happens, especially with them being in the same plane, the same overall thematic sense about them. I'm wondering if it's more like one set broken up into 2 parts versus 2 separate sets.
Yeah, all the sets that have come out so far, they're absolutely no relation to each other.
Right, and then now you mentioned Arena earlier. On Arena, we're going to have yet another new set, Jumpstart Historic Horizons, which will be an Arena exclusive. Now, there was the original Jumpstart that you got to play on Arena, but that also came out in paper, and it's a load of fun. My wife and I love playing it together. And then Historic Horizons takes that Jumpstart setup, brings not just new existing cards and reprints into Arena, such as some cards from Modern Horizons 1 and Modern Horizons 2. It also includes digital-only MTGA exclusive cards. For example, cards like the Planeswalker Teo, Aegis Adept. There's a sorcerer called Bounty of the Deep. There's a handful of each color gets a handful of these new cards. What's your feeling on these digital exclusive cards, Jim?
I have 2 feelings. There's a positive Jim and a negative Jim. So we're going to start with positive Jim.
Start with positive Jim.
All right. So I like the idea of mechanics that can't be done on paper being introduced in a digital realm. Things like the ones I saw, there's like Seek, where you can dive into your deck without having to shuffle it, taking out something random. Randomness is something you cannot do effectively.
Randomness is hard, yeah.
Perpetuity was another one that I think is just much easier to pull off in a digital format. And I really like the idea of stretching the boundaries of what you can do with Magic, because I think once they explore far enough, they're going to find some really interesting stuff.
And what does negative Jim say?
Negative Jim is worried that if they go too far down this path, we are going to eventually end up with 2 separate games. There's going to be the digital game and the paper game, and there's just like no reconciling them. Because one thing I really like about Arena is that it's just Magic. I'm just playing Magic, except it's online, and I like
Right.
that.
And the deck you built in Arena, you could build in real life, and vice versa.
Yeah, exactly. And I worry that I don't want Arena to become just this totally separate thing.
Now, one way they can get around that is making play modes that disallow those cards.
Right.
But will they do that?
I sure hope so.
I hope so too. But you touched on the mechanics earlier, and you talked about Seek, which randomly pulls cards from your library that meet the criteria without shuffling afterward. Perpetually, which modifies a specific card permanently, even as it enters other zones of play between the hand, exile, battlefield, and graveyard. And then there's Conjure, which creates a card for you to use and can include uncollectible cards that are not otherwise in a set or format, such as Ponder, Tropical Island, one of the original dual lands, and Stormfront Pegasus. And on top of that, there's two other things I want to point out. We have the Planeswalker Davriel Soulbroker, which his middle ability says accept one of Davriel's offers, then accept one of Davriel's conditions. And this is something you really can't do with paper Magic, because Davriel will offer you 3 choices out of drawing cards, conjuring something called Mainer Guardian, returning creature cards to your hand, randomly shuffling a creature card from your graveyard to your battlefield, giving you one of 4 different emblems. But on the flip side, you have to choose to lose 6 life, or exile cards from your hand, or sacrifice 2 permanents, and the list goes on. You can't really have these itemized lists, especially when they're already randomly generated lists. So that's a cool use of the digital spectrum, like you were like Good Jim or Optimistic Jim was talking about. And then we also have Tome of the Infinite, which is a blue artifact that conjures up cards that are not otherwise in Arena, like Swords to Plowshares and Dark Ritual and things of that sort. So there's a niftiness factor to it, but I understand your hesitation towards it possibly separating the digital game from the paper game, unless maybe that's what Wizards wants.
I guess that's possible. I hadn't really thought of that. Maybe they want people playing both at the same time. This sort of drives people to both.
Or maybe they're trying to separate Arena from Moto, Magic Online, because Magic Online is the paper version in digital form, and largely that's what Arena is, albeit a little more arcade-like. So maybe that's just it. Maybe Wizards is saying, listen, if you want to do Arena, this is Arena inspired by Magic the Gathering. If you want to play Magic digitally, well, we have MTGO. Go play it there.
That would be disappointing, because one of my favorite things about Arena is the UI and the aesthetic and how it makes everything feel alive. And online doesn't really compare.
No, MTGO does not compare at all. Maybe they're looking to do a big graphical overhaul on MTGO, and it definitely does need it. But I don't know. We'll find out how this goes over, and we'll find out what Wizards has in store for its digital offerings as time goes on. But time is going on in this podcast, Jim, and it means it's time to bring in our special guest for a little chit chat. You want to talk to Zbexx, buddy?
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it. Let's bring her in.
All right, and joining us is an internet personality and cosplayer, Zbexx, at ZBEXX. Zbexx, how are you? Thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on the show. So happy to be here.
We're glad to have you with us. And I do understand that you are at work at a store up there in Oregon. You want to give a little shout out to the store?
Yeah, I'm filming and recording right now from Addictive Behaviors in Eugene, Oregon. You can shop thousands of card singles and other sealed product at ccgobsession.com, like collectible card game.
All right, a little shout out there to Addictive Behaviors, but we didn't bring you here to talk about your work. We're here to talk about your passion, Magic the Gathering. Zbexx, what have you been playing lately?
With the pandemic, I've been playing a lot of webcam Magic as well as a little bit of Magic Arena. My webcam Magic, I've done several EDH appearances and hosts, playing for charity and for fun. And I've also been hosting my own Legacy Lounge featuring the best format in Magic the Gathering.
You're hosting a Legacy Lounge and you haven't called me yet. I have 5 Legacy decks, lady.
All right. Well, we got to have you on the show. I just started my regular stream schedule, so we'll have to get you on there.
Terrific. And let people know where they can find those streams before we forget.
Oh, of course. You can follow me everywhere at Zbexx. That's ZBEXX. And I'm streaming on Twitch, but you can find me literally everywhere: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc., etc., etc.
Jim, you've done much Magic streaming watching or Legacy playing yourself?
I have been doing a fair amount of stream watching. One person I know well, Skybills, she does a lot of Magic streaming. I think she's sponsored by Oxygen Esports. So if I can shout out someone else in the middle of another interview.
I don't mind. I love other creators. It's great. We're all a little family, right?
And shout out to Oxygen, allowing us to breathe.
Very important sponsor.
Now, beyond just playing Zbexx, I know you have a pretty good history of good quality cosplay. I know I've bumped into you personally at GP Reno. I know I've bumped into you at GP Las Vegas. Did you make it to Sacramento as well?
I didn't make it to Sacramento, but I did make it to Phoenix just before the world ended, or events did, for that sake.
It kind of feels like the world ended there for a minute, didn't it?
Yeah.
Well, tell me, how'd you get into cosplay?
So my story of how I got into cosplay relates directly to Magic the Gathering. Pretty cool. I was learning to play Magic the Gathering, and we were going to a large event, a pro tour. And at this point, I had only been playing for a few months, so I was just getting into standard, but not well enough to know the cards. And at that level, you definitely cannot be talking about the games right next to the tables. So in order to feel like I fit in at the event, knowing that I was not going to be able to follow anything that was happening on the floor, I decided to cosplay as one of my favorite characters, which was Liliana of the Veil, as Innistrad had just come out. It was
Good
actually
choice.
Pro Tour Dark Ascension. So yeah, that was where my journey of cosplay began. I didn't even know that it was called cosplay, and I was making a new character to match a card once per year. And then guess what? I'm a cosplayer now. It's just a regular thing.
Amazing how that kind of happened, huh?
Yeah. So Magic actually started me cosplaying, and I now cosplay other things because I first started cosplay through Magic.
I was just about to ask about that. I was looking at your Instagram, and one of the first things that jumped out was a cosplay image of Sailor Moon, which I thought was really cool. So what other cosplay interests do you have aside from Magic?
Well, I like comic books, so I've done characters both from Marvel, like Captain Marvel, and DC, like Black Canary, or even Starlight, which if you go way back is connected to DC. I also like anime characters, like I did Sailor Uranus in a Sailor Moon group. I have an Ino cosplay coming up for Naruto, as well as Misa. And then I also love video games. I did Ayla from Chrono Trigger. That's one of my favorite old school games.
Game.
Awesome.
Great
I
game.
love it.
Yeah. So really a whole variety of stuff, just anything that interests me, or like I had a fan say, hey, you should do Lola Bunny. So I did that earlier this year before the Space Jam movie came out. So just stuff that I can have fun with.
You know, I still have not seen the LeBron James Space Jam movie, but I love, guilty pleasure, love the original Space Jam movie, so.
It's pretty good. I just watched it. It's got some, classic jokes in there and a different spin than the first one. They did a good job for like a sequel of not copying the first one.
Spin, basketball, I see what you did there.
Oh!
Whoa! Now, in addition to the cosplay, in addition to your streaming and playing Magic and killing it in Legacy, you've also recently, at least recently as far as I've noticed, you may have been doing this for a while, and maybe it just took me a while to catch on, got into making some actual like little mini social media video content, some video loops, some kind of silly and kind of rad stuff. Tell me about that.
Thanks. So I've been doing little clips of video content pretty much since I decided that I was going to make content back in 2018. It's funny, TikTok wasn't a thing then, but I would do these types of little short videos for my stories. And so I took that just before pandemic started. I was actually on TikTok just before everybody else got on there. And I really found it as an outlet in a time when I really needed as an extrovert to reach out to people. So you may see the pass the card video that I did with some other Magic creators, or I did even a mutate video where we each passed around different items of clothing because we were mutating. So that's kind of what got me started, and it made me really happy. And I had been making YouTube content, and I just found in comparison to the time and effort that I was putting into the content versus the enjoyment of the final product that I was able to produce with my abilities and my talents, I'm really good at being on video, and I like dancing, and I like cracking jokes, and I like teaching people tips and tricks that they might not know about Magic, because you've got to learn somewhere, and you might as well make it fun and fabulous. So
that's very cool. Like you said that, like, as an extrovert, you enjoy reaching out to people. How does the experience of making videos and putting those out there compare to the experience of actually going out into the world and cosplaying? Does it feel similar, different?
It's a good question.
The pandemic was really interesting because I got an opportunity to work with a lot of people that had everybody's world not been put in paused or been halted to a certain extent. People had time in their lives where they might not have had time to send me a video before. As we've gotten back into more regular life, some of the events, like pre-release events for Wizards of the Coast that I've been participating in, I've had other creators and they've been like, sorry, I just haven't had time. But at the beginning of pandemic, it was really unique because I did have a lot more time. Also at events, sometimes if you've ever been to a Grand Prix, you're there for your main event and you might be in cosplay, but another cosplayer might be doing a side event. And you just don't know when your schedules meet up to get to film that little 15-second TikTok. So it was really kind of actually the best timing that the pandemic could have happened, to kind of when I had already been doing all this thing culminating together.
Really kind of gave you the opportunity to devote the time.
Yeah. It's really something that I needed and was at a point where I was already reaching out to people. So it just kind of, it all fit together.
Now, if somebody listens to this on the podcast or watches this on YouTube and they're like, wow, that sounds cool, I want to do that. If you had to pick one or two things to tell them about making them good or bad, what would you tell them?
For making content, I think you really need to make content that you would want to watch or makes you happy. Because if you do spend a lot of time into making a video that you're trying to copy what somebody else is doing, and then you get like 10 views, you're like, that might hurt your drive to continue making content. So make something that you would want to watch, because at the end of the day, even if you're the only one watching your video 10 times and that makes you happy, that's kind of the goal. You should make content to make yourself like for happy. That should be why you're doing it. And I guess my second little piece of advice is don't get focused on the views, and really just have fun with it, because that also comes across. If you're trying to get so focused on whatever you view as success, tunnel vision, that's not going to be healthy for you. And I think my experience in meeting other members in the community and building a rapport with other women, men, non-men, or whatever gender where I'm connecting with, where I didn't feel there was representation 10 years ago like there is now, that's a success to me. So you just need to figure out how to measure your own success in a different way than the numbers. So
do you feel like there's a link between like you making content you like and like content that other people would like? Do you think that people can notice and they enjoy your work correspondingly if you're enjoying it?
I think so, definitely. Like I started doing planeswalker looks on my eyelids out of makeup. And I don't expect most Magic players, especially when I know at least, whatever, more than 50% of my audience is male. I don't expect them to go out and buy makeup and watch it as a tutorial, but maybe at least some of them think it's interesting, and I had fun doing it. So that's more what's important at the end of the day. And then, maybe I'm cultivating a community that's unique to that. and maybe there are more people that want nerd planeswalker makeup. So
at the next GP, whenever they start GPs, I expect a third of all the guys there to have really nice eyes.
Yes, they'll be like, you've been watching Zbexx's channel, huh?
I know what you're into. That's sweet. Okay, we didn't just bring you here as Zbexx to talk about everything we've already talked about, from magic to cosplay to making fun little videos online. We also brought you here to play our magic related game. That's the game where we're asking you questions about magic, but not necessarily about Magic the Gathering. Are you down?
Okay, I'm so down. I love playing games.
All right. Well, you cosplayed as Sailor Moon, who is a magical girl. So we're going to ask you 3 questions about magical girl anime.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. So the very first magical girl anime came out in 1966 by Toei Animation. It is known as what? A, Sally the Witch. B, Yosei the Oni. Or C, Kami no Kami.
I'm gonna go with Sally the Witch, A.
It is actually Sally the Witch, and they say the show's concept was inspired by the American sitcom Bewitched.
Okay.
Okay, I got everyone singing it now.
I was more of an I Dream of Jeannie girl myself, but Bewitched came on after, so.
Yes, it did, on like what? TBS from like 1 to 2.
Or Nick at Night, you know.
Nick at Night, yeah.
Yes.
Right, followed by Green Acres and Mr. Ed. I may have been right on that. I have no idea. All right.
Fact check.
Question number 2, and I'm going to butcher this name, but feel free to correct me on the pronunciation if you know it. Naoko Takeuchi is a manga writer and artist, best known for being the creator of Sailor Moon and codename Sailor V. She's also known for creating a number of other popular mangas, one of which has to do with a very flavorful holiday. Is it Strawberry Christmas, Chocolate Christmas, or Pumpernickel Christmas?
I just watched a really cool little video segment about her. She's a really awesome, I don't know, role model per se.
That's cheating.
I don't know the answer to this question though, so I'm going to take a wild guess and go with the most kawaii answer. That's cute in Japanese, and go with Strawberry Christmas.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
I'm sorry, it was Chocolate Christmas.
Okay.
Kurisumasu.
I got that one wrong. I'm 1 for 1.
1 for 1. Well, you still have a chance to finish with a winning record here.
Okay, let's see.
The popular magical girl anime, Card Captor Sakura, was censored in a number of ways when it was sent here to the U.S. for American audiences, including the removal of what possibly, at the time, controversial topic. Was it A, the death of someone's parents, B, political commentary, or C, LGBTQ content?
Well, I'm just going to throw out there that Batman's parents died, so I think we can not answer question A. And I do know that Sailor Moon has, in the Japanese version, they are Uranus and Neptune are implied as lovers, and in the U.S. version, they were made as cousins. So
that just makes it so much worse, by the way.
LGBT, because I would not be surprised if that was the same. If it's B, oh well, but I'm going to go with C.
You went with C, and you are correct. Both the girl crushes, such as the character Madison's crush on Sakura, and the various guy love scenes between very close male friends in the anime, were all removed when they imported it here in the U.S. So bad news on that, but good news, Zbexx, is you went 2 of 3, and you've won an internet point for your magic-related quiz.
Yay, internet points! I'm a magical girl.
Zbexx, magic player, cosplayer, streamer, and cool little TikTok video maker, thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I had a fabulous time.
So did we.
Well, big thank you to Zbexx for taking some time out of her day to join us in that interview. That was actually a pretty fun one, Jim.
I really enjoyed that. I love the game we played. I loved hearing about her interests. That's a great interview. Good job finding that guest.
Right, and if you haven't seen her videos, you, Jim, and everyone listening and watching, I mean, they're actually a lot of fun. I do recommend going to check those out, and you'll have plenty of time to do that because, well, the podcast and subsequently the YouTube video that carbon copies off of this is over. So thank you very much for joining us. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Jim, did you learn any valuable lessons today?
I learned a lot of important things about magical girls today, so this was definitely worth my time.
Okay, as long as you learned something, Jim, that's the important part. Not a day goes by where you shouldn't learn at least one new thing.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you very much for sticking with us. I'm Barry White.
All right. I am Jim Avery.
See you in a month.
Take care.